أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قد أفلح من تزكى وذكر اسم ربه فصلى بل تؤثرون الحياة الدنيا والآخرة خير وأبقى إن هذا لفي الصحف الأولى صحف إبراهيم وموسى صدق الله العظيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. If we can't purify our hearts in the month of Ramadan, it will be very difficult to purify our hearts and also our intentions outside of the month of Ramadan as well. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He said that the word sincerity is actually synonymous with the word taqwa. And on the occasion of Eid al-Adha, where we sacrifice an animal for the sake of Rabbul Alameen subhanahu wa ta'ala, in emulation of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wassalam, Allah says, لَن يَنَالَ اللَّهَ لُحُومُهَا وَلَا دِمَاؤُهَا وَلَكِنْ يَنَالُهُ التَّقْوَى مِنْكُمْ, that the meat nor the blood of the animal reaches nor benefits Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَلَكِنْ يَنَالُهُ التَّقْوَى مِنْكُمْ, but a person's sincerity reaches Rabbul Alameen subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's why a penny spent in the path of Allah with sincerity and devotion and with ikhlas, it is far more greater and accepted in magnitude than a person who spends the entire world and what it contains in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Remember, Wallahu al-ghaniyyu wa nahnu al-fuqara. Allah is rich, we are poor. Wallahu al-qawiyyu wa nahnu al-du'afa. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is all powerful and we are weak. We need to stop doing things for the sake of fame or due to societal pressure as well. You would rather take a person to 7-Eleven and buy that person a Slurpee with sincerity instead of taking this person to a halal steakhouse and spending or dropping $200 or $300 bills on the meal and feeling, insincere and feeling rage and anger that, you took this person out to dinner, you didn't want to take that person out to dinner, and you were forced and stuck with a $300 bill. That one Slurpee that you spent 99 cents on will have far greater an effect and acceptance than the $300 that you spent without sincerity as well. And that's why Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he spoke about the Sahaba and he said, a handful of wheat or a handful of barley that my companions give in the path of Allah, even a mountain of gold or the mountain of Uhud equivalent to gold will not be as beneficial as the fistful of barley that my companions gave. And the Sahaba, they asked, why, Ya Prophet of Allah? Limada ya Rasulullah? And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, it is because of the sincerity that the Sahaba ridwanullahi alayhim ajma'een have established within their hearts. Now, the month of Ramadan is a month where, Matharatul Qulub is focused on. Taqwa, resides in the heart. Also, intentions are fi'lul qalb. They are actions of the heart. So Shaykh Hamza, in his book, Purification of the Heart, he says that Imam Mawlud completes his discussion on the various diseases and then turns his attention to a comprehensive treatment plan for the heart, which focuses on curbing the soul from its own excessive desires. To accomplish this, he states 4 things. And Ramadan is the opportune time. And I think COVID-19, Ramadan 2020, coronavirus 2020, it gives us an advantage to ensure that the results that are required and one obtains, or one should obtain in the month of Ramadan, should come to fruition. So there are 4 things that we should do when it comes to the purification of our heart. First and foremost, qillatul ta'am, lessen our food. The second thing that Imam Mawlud rahimahullah makes mention of is qillatul manam, is to reduce our sleep. The third thing, qillatul kalam, to speak less. And the fourth thing is qillatul ikhtilat ma'al anam, is to socialize less as well, is to meditate in private. And that's why, subhanAllah, the madhab of Imam Malik rahimahullah, they actually say that it's fine doing Salatul Taraweeh at home. And perhaps a person who does Salatul Taraweeh at home, they will have more concentration and devotion and less distraction as well. Remember, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, when he would offer Salatul Layl and Qiyamul Layl during the night, and Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam would offer it alone. Right? Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, she would not be with Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam while offering Salatul Layl and Salatul Tahajjud, because that is an intimate conversation that we want to establish between ourselves and Rabbul Alamin subhanahu wa ta'ala. And thereafter, the author writes that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he said that none of you will fully believe. لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى يكون هوى تبعا لما جئت به, until one's desires are in accordance with what Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam has brought. So one's faith is not complete until one's desires do not conflict with the message of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And the way to achieve and regulate our desires and to obtain this alignment is to prohibit the soul of all things that are not in accordance with Islam. Now, a typical bookstore will have many volumes dealing with people's addictions. And we live in a time where addictions have become much more rampant. People are addicted to pornography. They're addicted to alcohol. They're addicted to cannabis. They're addicted to work, right? I mean, there's alcoholics and then there's workaholics, right? So a typical bookstore will have many volumes dealing with people's addiction and their inability to control themselves. And this publishing phenomenon is a response to our social realities. In Islam, salah and prayer teaches us how to become disciplined with our hours and days. Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah, he once said that, look, you either run your day or your day runs you. And early to bed, early to rise will keep us all healthy, wealthy, and spiritually wise as well. It gives us cleanliness through ablution and a consciousness of the passing of hours. We speak of killing time, while time quietly kills us. And fasting is a universe in itself, a realm in which we learn about discipline in the most direct way with regard to the tongue, the stomach, the genitals, and the eyes. Islam places great emphasis on discipline because there is so much at stake. Without discipline, religion would be impossible. Without religion, eternal salvation is impossible as well. So in the Christian tradition, there are 7 deadly sins. What are they? Arrogance, anger, envy, sloth, greed, gluttony, and lust. The last 2 relate to one's base desires, and they are the chief desires of the soul. Gluttony and lust are founded on natural inclinations of hunger and sexual attraction. And that's why all of the ulama, they're in agreement that the stomach is the source of the key impulse of people. If a person can learn how to control food, other issues of discipline will follow. For gluttony is fuel for lust, and fasting, it helps us curb, curtail, break down, and eradicate gluttony. And that's why Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he advised that unmarried people, they fast frequently in order to keep their sexual desires in check. Now the question is, how about if a person is married, but they're having a difficult time being loyal to their spouse, regulating their gaze, protecting their gaze? What is the recommendation for that person? Again, we live in a hypersexualized, pornified society. These things need to be spoken about. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as a matter of fact, speaks about these things in Al-Quran Al-Kareem as well. He says, Oh, believing men, lower your gaze, regulate your gaze, وَيَحْفَظُوا فُرُوجَهُمْ, and protect your chastity and your private areas. And he said the same thing for women as well. Oh, believing woman, lower your gaze and protect your private areas as well. And that's why Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he clearly said, مَن يَضْمَنْ مَا بَيْنَ لِحْيَيْهِ وَمَا بَيْنَ رِجْلَيْهِ أَضْمَنْ لَهُ الْجَنَّةِ. That whoever safeguards and protects what is between their jaws, meaning their tongue, and whoever protects what is between their thighs, meaning their genitals, then أَضْمَنْ لَهُ الْجَنَّةِ, I guarantee and protect Jannah for that person as well. Imam al-Qushayri rahimahullah was a great master of the heart. He says, for me to raise my hand from my plate while I am still hungry is better than the whole night in prayer. And try to do this tonight. Let us not eat to our fill. Satiety and satiation is something that An-Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he never recommended. He said 1/3 of your stomach for food, 1/3 of your stomach for air, and 1/3 of your stomach for water. So spiritual masters, they traditionally have focused on hunger. The goal is not to create a nation or a community of anorexics, but to cut the knot that binds self-discipline. We do things often out of blind conditioning. When it comes to food, we have been drilled that 3 meals are not only normal, but necessary for proper nutritional fulfillment. But this is not true, as Shaykh Hamza points out. He says that the caloric intake of an average American far exceeds what is physiologically needed. And that's why the most obese country was the United States. There's a country in the Middle East which is far more obese now than the United States. And the United States is the second most obese country in the world. As a result, America is now recognized as among the most obese nations on earth, according to the National Institutes of Health. So when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he served a guest from Yemen a bowl of milk. And while he finished drinking it, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam asked if he wanted more. So the man said, yes, I'd like some more. This went on until the man drank 7 bowls of milk, which was far more than what he needed. But when this man became a Muslim, the companions noticed that he only drank 1 bowl of milk. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he told them that a person who has no faith eats with 7 intestines, while the believer only eats with 1. People eat much more now than ever in history, especially when it comes to 4-letter word. Starts with an M. What is it? Meat. In the past, meat was eaten infrequently, even by people of means, who ate meat once or twice a week. The poor ate meat once or twice in a year, mainly around times of Eid celebrations. Also, snacking has become so common that many people cannot go for more than a few hours without eating something. Convenience stores and vending machines all over the place have also exacerbated this. This abundance was heard of not too long ago, and all of this has virtually turned people into grazing animals, which is anathema to spiritual wellness. Shaykh Hamza Yusufi further writes, sociologists in studying eating habits have said that the average American has 20 food contacts a day. In most traditional cultures, meals were set for specific times, and eating between meals was not acceptable. Ramadan is a time to experience hunger with good cheer and renewed gratitude. It is divorcing oneself from the world and being reminded of the spiritual soul. But a person can rob Ramadan of an important benefit by overeating at night in order to make up for what was missed during the day, and the nights become night-long buffets, and worship vigils become secondary, unfortunately, or ignored altogether. People who have a problem with eating should start at least by lessening the portion of what they normally eat, which is the beginning of discipline. It is also advised to eat with other people, for eating with guests would make a person conscious of not being a glutton. Also, the more people that sit around a table, the greater the blessing and the barakah. Finally, one should decrease the number of meals in a day. It is not what's on the table, but more importantly, it is who's sitting around the table. And at the end, Imam Hamza, he says that it is not surprising that Imam Mawlud mentions hunger first. among the comprehensive treatments for the heart, eating is one of the most abused behaviors. We are conditioned to think that hunger is sated only when we feel full. Remember, one typical meal served in an average American restaurant can feed an entire family in West Africa. It is 8:45. We will make some du'as, inshallah. And thereafter, I encourage everyone to make du'as for themselves, supplicate for yourself, your parents, and your families as well. And also, when you supplicate for the ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. May we open our fast in the name of Allah, the most gracious, the especially and the entirely merciful, for good food and those who prepare it, for good friends with whom to share it. We thank you, O Allah. ذهب الظمأ وابتلت العروق وثبت الأجر إن شاء الله. O Allah, when we open our fast, our thirst will be satiated, our bodies hydrated, and Allah willing, our reward from you established. May this food restore our strength, giving new energy to tired limbs, new thoughts to weary minds. May this drink restore our souls, giving new vision to cold and dry spirits, and new warmth and life to cold and dead hearts. And once refreshed, O Allah, may we give new pleasure to you who gives us all. O Allah, we acknowledge to you our weakness. We supplicate to you in our fear. We come to you with trust. You alone do we worship, and you alone do we seek assistance from. Jazakumullahu khairan. We'll see you all at 9:55 p.m. We'll be speaking about alcohol and how alcohol decreases inhibitions. And when inhibitions are decreased, when a person gets tipsy, it leads to risky behavior. And we'll speak about why Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has cursed 10 categories of people who deal with alcohol. Jazakumullahu khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.